Good morning, American Lit students, and welcome to the final half a week of American literature. Really, for you, it's a little bit more than half a week because I've taken the deadline for the Washington Irving paper and extended it to Thursday. You've got emails saying that it'll be Thursday and not Friday, because if you try to submit something on Friday, you're going to find a closed Dropbox, and then you're going to send me a desperate email saying, will you accept this as an email attachment? To which I'll say, well, did you read your email and did you watch the video? And there will be an announcement above the video saying Thursday's the last day, absolutely. Once the clock strikes midnight and it turns to Friday, I won't take it anymore. So that is the final paper that's due. I've fallen a little behind on the grading. I apologize for that. This past weekend was more crazy than I thought. But today, Monday, I'm going to start on those week 3 and week 4, and I'm hoping to get both days done, or both weeks done today. Now, what's the likelihood of that? Not as likely as I would like, but I should at the minimum get through week 3 and get a portion of week 4's done. For the final week here, I've chosen Washington Irving, and I've done this for a couple of reasons. One is Washington Irving is a nice transition between colonial America and a new nation. And last week we did the founding fathers, so I hope that you learned through those readings, and I hope it shows in your writings how these founding fathers weren't as harmonious as people would like for you to believe. They fought bitterly with each other about a lot of things, and out of all of that came a new nation, and one which I think we could say is the greatest nation on earth. But whether you agree with that or not, a new nation was formed out of the fires of the fights that the founding fathers had. Now, Washington Irving. Usually when you sign up for a literature class, you usually expect to get a lot of fiction, because that's what most people think of with literature. With early American literature, it doesn't quite work that way, because the founding fathers and the colonists, they didn't have time to sit around and write fiction. There were some that wrote poetry, and we didn't really look at any of those. But the only fiction we've looked at so far has been the creation stories of the Native Americans. And even then, these were kind of not really designed to be fiction, but they were designed to be sacred texts of the Native Americans that were passed down orally from one generation to the next. So this will be the first time that an American author, in fact, Washington Irving is really the first ever American author to make a living writing stories, writing fiction. And he borrowed very heavily from the mythologies of, or maybe not mythologies, the fairy tales of Germany. In fact, Washington Irving actually lived in Germany for a time. So he took a German tale about a guy that falls asleep in the woods for a while, and he set it in the Catskill Mountains of New York, and he created Rip Van Winkle. And there are a few themes about this. You'll see that when you look at the question choices, there are 4 different choices. One is mythology and storytelling. I heard this from somebody that heard this, and it's passed down as history by a guy named Diedrich Knickerbocker, who, for those of you that don't know, a Knickerbocker is a New York native. I mean, that's the name that, that's why the New York Knicks basketball team is the Knicks. Their full name is the New York Knickerbockers, but we just call them the Knicks because it's easier. But, so you've got that aspect going on. There's also the idea of being out of touch with what's going on around you. Rip Van Winkle's going to fall asleep for about 20 years. He's going to be put to sleep by a magic potion, possibly by the ghosts of Henry Hudson and his crew. You have to understand that Henry Hudson, when Henry Hudson discovered the Hudson Bay and the Hudson River, he was not popular with his sailors, and they essentially sent him and a couple of other people loyal to him into a canoe, and the ship went back to the Netherlands, I think it was. And here's Hudson, and I think 2 other people or 3 other people stuck in a boat in the New World. There were no airplanes and cruise ships at the time, and nobody ever heard from Hudson again after that. Nobody knows where Hudson died or whatever happened to him. But so there's that suggestion that it could be his ghosts. But the whole keeping out of touch thing, you're going to find that when Rip Van Winkle returns to his village after his 20-year nap, he's going to wake up in a new country. He fell asleep as a subject to King George III. He's going to wake up as a subject to George Washington, and it nearly gets him killed. He nearly incites a riot in the village, and so that's important. That whole idea of staying in touch. So these are all things to look at with Rip Van Winkle. I also chose this because I think it'll be fun. Reading William Bradford isn't always fun. Reading Thomas Paine isn't always fun. But this is a fun story. This is really enjoyable. Cartoons have been made of it. Children's illustrated books have been made out of it. There have been versions of this made in Hollywood, set in the modern day, and I think that you're going to really enjoy this. And this is a good way to finish out the semester. Ideally, this class is supposed to take us through the Civil War, but we only had 5 weeks, and so that's not nearly enough time. Plus, I chose a book that stops kind of after the new country is founded anyway, because I wanted you to be able to afford it. So, enjoy the Rip Van Winkle. Do bear in mind, you've got an email, you've got this video, and you've got an announcement on the board that says that Thursday, when the clock strikes midnight and turns to Friday, those boxes will be shut down and I will not accept any more work. I have to submit those grades by this weekend. So, that's why the deadlines are so important. And then once I get the grades submitted to the registrar, I'll open the boxes back up and you can see your comments on Rip Van Winkle's papers. Which probably won't be many because I made so many comments on the first 2 weeks. So that's it. I've enjoyed seeing this class progress. The improvement from week 1's papers to week 2 papers were really good. I think I gave out 10 A's in week 2. I'm hoping that will continue through weeks 3, 4, and 5. Remember that I have agreed if you should all improve, and most of you did in week 2, and if this improvement continues, that I will drop the lowest grade. So if you really tanked on the week 1 paper, it may not affect you very much. But of course, if I see some regression in the papers over weeks 3, 4, and 5, then I'll just go ahead and factor all 5 grades in. So I hope you guys took it seriously as you did week 2 and worked really hard to progress. And that's all I have. Have a great break after this week. Enjoy your time off before we have to start all this again in the fall. And maybe I'll see some of you again in future classes. And if not, I wish you all the best of luck and wish you well as you pursue your Darton degree and beyond.